Magical camshaft from beyond. Give me parts. It worked.
So we finished up the mounts for the Godzilla here. We ended up going with 1/4 inch thick steel with 3/16 inch on the side. So if I was gonna redo it, I would just have this bend down instead of having to notch this out here. If you look closely, I had to cut kind of a half moon or circle out on each of them so that you can get the bolt in and there's room for a socket there. So they're super heavy duty. They're not gonna win any awards for visual appearance. The welds are grinding them a little bit, but that's all right.
on this. It ended up actually turning out pretty cool. It's like a mid-length header, I think. I mean, looks pretty sweet, but I was gonna do a traditional 4 tubes into a collector, kind of like a long tube header, but there's just room constraints and everything in the car. So once I started thinking, looking at the factory Coyote mount I got here on the ground, seeing how they did kind of one pipe and then another pipe goes into it, started to think that that was a pretty good idea, and I came up with this. And I'm sure later someone will come out with header swaps kits, so I'll probably upgrade to that, but for now this is gonna get the job done and it'll work pretty sweet. Alright, so we got the rough mock-up of the exhaust done, and we're gonna send this over to my buddy, and he's gonna make a 3/8 flange. This is one off of a Coyote, showing just the mild steel. This is some form of cast, either cast iron or cast steel, and the welds crack and everything. It's too hard to work with, so we just mocked the pipes up in the rough area that they're going to be. But this allows you to utilize the factory exhaust system or whatever X pipe or anything that you've got. So then the next problem we ran into was the air conditioning compressor. You can see here it's off. It was 1 centimeter off the belt. So I built this plate here, which is going to bolt to the block like, let's see, like this. So this will come through, bolt to the engine, and it just pushes the compressor back a cup, like 1 centimeter. So I'll show you here. I got a compressor off another Coyote that it'll just hook right to like that, and I ground some nuts down and pounded them in so that the bolts will, the factory bolts you'll be able to use, you'll just have to get these bolts, which are M8 by 125, and they go, all 3 go in there like that, and that will locate the factory AC, so you won't have to get a different compressor or switch out the front assembly if that's what would be different. The next thing we have to do is fix the alternator. So these don't come with alternators, and I was having trouble finding what they use for the factory. I was gonna go actually look at one in the dealership, but I found a picture and it looks like Ford has 2 alternators on it. So we're just gonna take one off of the Coyote that was in the car and build some brackets and then mock it up. And next is, after that, will be this plenum. So for a tube to hook on here, it'll hit the hood. So I'm gonna, this was I believe 3 1/4 inch, and I'm gonna build a piece of steel that bolts to here and just turns this a little bit so that a pipe can fit underneath this hood. And then the very last thing will be the oil cooler. So this engine has a built-in oil cooler from the factory that all the oil will flow through, so you can't just block it off. So I've got to modify the factory one and just make an inlet and an outlet instead of the big block. I've got it laying around. I'll show a video of that later on. But other than that, we're still waiting on the control pack. I'm gonna give Power by the Hour another call because I haven't seen it released yet. Alright, so I pulled all these parts off the car. We're about to send them to my buddy so he can perfect it and make better ones. Here are the mounts. I got the engine mounts here. We're gonna send them to him. All this stuff is really like a rough copy or rough build of it all. The headers turned out pretty nice. I talked about it before. The flange is not weldable because it just cracks the welds. The cast iron does or something like that. This here looks really ugly, but this is the alternator bracket. So this just mounts the alternator on the driver's side of the engine, and then here is the AC relocation bracket that just puts the AC compressor 1 centimeter backwards. But we're about to send these and that oil cooler bracket to him, my friend Derek, and see what he can do, see if he can hook us up with a little better copies of everything, especially the alternator bracket. It's really just for measurements and whatnot. But all right, we'll get these packaged up and sent.